happy rainy Friday night to you from Portland, Oregon. I hope all of those ice chuddies down at the McAdam facility are getting trench foot as we speak. Now, you know me, I'm always going to be pumped to talk about fractures within MAGA, and we've got a doozy this evening. Okay, I know there have been a long list of scandals and impeachable offenses, so many that it's hard to keep track. But do you remember back earlier this year when Qatar gave Donald Trump an airplane? One that he says he wants to remake into his new Air Force One. And in September of this year, we heard that the Air Force had begun modifying that jet in order to do just that. Yeah, so in what should have been a giant scandal, a foreign nation gave the president a gift of an airplane. And then the Air Force Secretary, Troy Menck, told all of us, the American people, that it was going to cost somewhere between 400 and 600 million taxpayer dollars to retrofit it and turn it into a new Air Force One. Now, about a week ago, we heard from reporting in the Politico that Democrats were trying to block taxpayer dollars from being used to convert that gift of a Qatari jetliner into Air Force One. But surprise, surprise, Republicans who will lick Donald Trump's boots every fucking day of the week blocked a congressional attempt to prevent hundreds of millions of our tax dollars from being used to remodel, to refit a Qatari jetliner that, again, huge legal, ethical, and security concerns about a foreign nation gifting the president an airplane. Right, so Democrats have pointed out, Republicans, y'all are the ones who are trying to hoodwink the American people into believing that you are a party that is rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. But you want to take $400 to $600 million of American taxpayer money and remodel Donald Trump's jet, which again was a gift that, had any other president taken that as a gift, immediate investigation, immediate ethical and legal and security concerns. But you know, like Republicans, they have abdicated all of their responsibility, all of their duty. They are failing their constituents and betraying their oath to the Constitution. For reasons that, like, y'all, it really doesn't seem clear to me why they've so freely and willingly given up all of their power. But, you know, we'll have to get back to that in another video. So basically, Democrats put forward this motion that was like, no, you can't spend hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars retrofitting and remodeling this jet that was likely illegally given to Donald Trump by a foreign government. And Republicans blocked it. It was blocked in the Senate, 46 to 50. There's no money for Medicaid, but there's hundreds of millions of dollars for Donald Trump to renovate jets. And then today we got this announcement from Pete Hegseth, who said that the U.S. will host a new Qatari Air Force facility in Idaho. Could you imagine the scandal under Joe Biden if Qatar had given Joe Biden an airplane, and then a few months later, Donald Trump's like, these are my new best buds. I'm going to let them build an Air Force base in Idaho. But whatever, I guess Republicans are sort of going along with it. I mean, at least the Republican bootlickers in Congress are going along with whatever Donnie wants. But the MAGA base, they're not happy. And this is what I mean when I say we've got to not only look for and acknowledge cracks within the MAGA base and like celebrate those, but see how we can help facilitate splitting those wide open. So we are hearing from the MAGA base that they are real pissed off at this move by Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump. In particular, Laura Loomer had an absolute crash out all over social media this afternoon. So according to Pete Hegseth, they're going to let the air arm of the Qatar Armed Forces have airplanes here in the United States and train their pilots how to fly F-15s in our country. And Laura Loomer said there isn't a single Trump supporter who supports allowing Qatar to have a military base on U.S. soil. I don't know who told President Trump this was a good idea, but it has made the people not want to vote. Of course, this is rooted in a lot of Islamophobia because she wrote no foreign country should have a military base on U.S. soil, especially Islamic countries. Loomer went on to crash out directly at Pete Hegseth. And then she said, I don't think I'll be voting in 2026. Yeah, girl, you go ahead and tell the MAGA base not to vote. Y'all should be so pissed off over Donald Trump wanting to allow the Qatari Air Force to have a base in deep red Idaho. Idaho is a hotbed of Mormon and evangelical white supremacy. I am sure they are not thrilled with a country from the Middle East bringing their military members into Idaho in order to establish an Air Force base and to train. Again, fractures in the MAGA base. I think that we can often wrongly believe that they are a unified front when they are not. In fact, Donald Trump is really, really struggling to hold those factions together. And as he has the dwindles more and more, he's less present. It is Stephen Miller coming to the forefront, and Stephen Miller is deeply, deeply unlikable. We're going to see more of this. So how can we encourage this kind of fracturing? When we see it happen, we should acknowledge it. We should talk about it. You got that Trumper relative and be like, gosh, I heard a MAGA influencer say that they're not going to vote because they're so mad about what the Trump regime is doing in Idaho right now. Gosh, like, yeah, if I were a MAGA supporter, I'd feel that way too. I'd be so pissed about this, I would want to withdraw my support. And it's not just Laura Loomer. Steve Bannon, who is Donald Trump's former White House chief strategist, told Newsweek today that we should never have a military base of a foreign power on the sacred soil of America. And conservative commentator Amy Malik, according to The Hill, wrote on X that Qatar has spent $100 billion buying influence in the US and it's paying off. She said, this isn't shared defense goals, it's a shared delusion. We're not building peace, we're building a launch pad for the Islamic disaster. Yeah, I think Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth underestimated the amount of deep Islamophobia that exists in the MAGA sphere. So how do we use this to our advantage? Because it's not just actions of the regime that hurt us that create a chance for the backlash effect to be invoked, right? It's also when they have like these unforced errors, right? Where they fail to understand the ways that they're going to piss off their own people. How do we feed that? How do we use that to our advantage? How do we take every action that the regime engages in as a chance for us to forward our cause to benefit us? So you tell me, what does that look like here?